Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming to this very important news conference. A few things I wanted to say first. I want to give a special thanks. This operation is titled Operation Barker, the namesake of the late Bob Barker, whom was an extreme animal advocate globally. This was the last investigation that Mr. Barker funded prior to his deaths. So we really thank him. Also, the Candace and Noah Feinberg Foundation and other foundations. Without these good people, this case wouldn't be brought to light today, so it's extremely important. What I wanted to do is give you an overview. There are two very important things in this case today which make them special. Number one, thoroughbred racehorses. This is the first time in US history, if not global, that a tattooed thoroughbred racehorse has been killed, butchered, sectioned, and its meat sold in the United States for human consumption. This has never before happened. And number two, enforcement, or the lack thereof. The lack of enforcement in this case is so extreme and sickening, we're gonna have to go over it, aren't we? So what I'm gonna do is give you an overview on ARM, on who we are, on what we do, where and how we were created, and I'm going to get into the case, give you a summary of the investigation, and then we're going to get into the evidence. Where did the evidence go when the Animal Recovery Mission ended its case? Who did those reports in those videos go to? Who has had this case for the past 7 or 8 months and sat on this evidence and done absolutely nothing? The Animal Recovery Mission was created in 2009 in Miami Beach, Florida. We were created to go undercover and investigate illegal horse slaughter in the state of Florida. We were also created to go undercover and launch undercover investigations in illegal slaughterhouses. Illegal slaughterhouses is an industry. It's a multi-million-dollar industry in the state of Florida and now beyond. Most of the horses are being killed privately in the illegal slaughterhouses, in the illegal slaughterhouse industry in the state of Florida, which is going untouched, uninvestigated by any official department, city, county, state, or federal. The only entity that's going undercover in this industry, right here, the Animal Recovery Mission, why this organization is so incredibly important in these cases. The investigators. We're made up of ex-special forces, ex-military. We're made up of ex-law enforcement, ex-sheriff deputy detectives, ex-uniformed cops, ex-organized crime members, ex-State Department, and your basic civilian. In this case, in Operation Barker, the first operative that went undercover in this case was an ex-sheriff deputy. He also served in Iraq and Afghanistan. He was an ex-special forces in the Marines. He also was an operative with the US State Department. After leaving ARM a few months ago, he is now back with the State Department as a trainer. So just so you understand, we are made up at the Animal Recovery Mission of some pretty serious and official people. Very, very credible, the organization. We've created case law from going undercover over the past 15 years. In 2009, 2010, actually, the Good Horse Slaughter Act was created based on my personal work in the Animal Recovery Mission's undercover investigations, buying horse meat, giving that evidence to law enforcement, and having arrests made. The law enforcement, or shall I say the state senators, wrote this law because of the serious nature of the crimes in the state of Florida and the amount of horses that are being killed here, which now we're looking at least north of 15,000 a year. Listen to that number, at least 15,000 horses being illegally butchered and their meat going onto the black market horse meat trade in this state, in the state of Florida. Operation Barker. Operation Barker, how did we even get into Brooksville and Hernando County and this farm? What made us go there? A Craigslist ad. This farm was actually advertising on social media, on Craigslist, on various platforms on the internet for not just animals for sale, but animals for sale by the pound, which raised suspicions with myself and our undercover investigators. when that former US State Department operative went undercover for the first time, which is close to now 2 years ago, they were killing the animals with 2x4s. They were walking up to pigs and beating them to death with 2x4s. They were stabbing them to death. These are clear felonies in the state of Florida and everywhere in the United States, violating the Humane Slaughter Act of the US. We then launched a serious investigation. I started going undercover myself and befriending the farm owners. After having a bit of relationship with them and seeing the amount of traffic going in and out of this establishment, talking about at least 100 people per day going in and purchasing meat. Not only purchasing the meat for themselves, for human consumption, for their households, but purchasing meat for restaurants, for butcher shops. There were people loading meat, over 100 chickens, goat meat, pig meat, cattle, horse meat, and transporting them right here into Tampa, Florida, into downtown, selling them in fruit stands, cantinas. So we knew there was a big, big issue here. Animals were also being sold out of this illegal operation to a legal slaughterhouse right here in Tampa called Musa Slaughterhouse. These two people, these two companies are connected. All on video, all very well documented. So I started to ask about horse meat in this operation. And sure enough, we can get you that. We only do this and we only sell this meat to the people that we know and we trust. And at that point, they trusted me. They started selling me horse meat for, I think, $10 a pound to begin with. Now, ARM goes in and purchases this horse meat as evidence, not as human consumption. Although the people in the farm selling that meat, thinking that it's going for human consumption, of course, ARM operatives create personas, right? As any undercover operative does, which is how we can buy horse meat legally. By the way, the first horse meat buy under the new state law was back in 2011, 2012, right here in Hillsborough County in Tampa, where this conference is today. An arrest was made. His name was George Ortega, and that was the first arrest. We went in, undercover, purchased that horse meat for human consumption without law enforcement involvement, and handed it to USDA officials for testing, which led to the arrest. But in this farm in Brooksville, in Hernando County, this is a father and son owned business. Juan and Juan Jr. Ortiz. They're from New Jersey. They came to Florida to retire. What did they do in New Jersey? They owned pet stores in New Jersey. That's what they did in New Jersey. They owned pet stores. The animal cruelty going on in this farm is ghastly. And I'm going to go over some of the crimes and some of the violations of these individuals to the animals. Killing and beating animals with 2x4s and bats. Choking animals, boiling animals alive, stabbing animals, shooting animals with small caliber weapons, not stunning them properly, butchering them alive. No aid or vet care on the property to the suffering. Animals were dying left and right from injuries and from medical reasons. Violating health code laws, zoning codes, sanitary nuisance codes, environmental laws. Not holding any business or regulatory licenses whatsoever. This establishment was, everything about it was illegal. And making a large sum of money, a huge profit out of this business. Not holding insurances, selling uninspected meat, selling unadulterated meat, selling illegal horse meat, and killing tattooed, registered, thoroughbred racehorses. That alone, that crime alone, slaughtering a tattooed thoroughbred racehorse in the state of Florida, in our statute, is a second-degree felony. It's a 15-year maximum penalty. Just about every crime that I read off here is on video. Just about every crime that I read off here towards the animals is a felony. A felony, not a misdemeanor. Has anyone been complaining about this farm other than ARM? Sure have. Neighbors. The actual property owner themselves, who own this property where this illegal slaughterhouse is seated on, has been complaining to the sheriff's office, making official statements and reports, begging them to close it. The neighbors, blood, entering the water table, entering neighboring properties from the slaughter area, rivers of blood, which you can see are in our videos. Who have they complained to? The sheriff's office. How do I know this? Because the sheriff's office, in our official meetings at their offices, which I took part in, told me themselves. For years, this has been going on, unenforced. Nothing been done by the sheriff's office. Imagine being one of the neighbors of this property, hearing the screams day and night of these animals, dealing with the sanitary nuisances, the bloods, the carcasses, the stenches, and the smells. These types of farms is how pandemics start. How did COVID start? How did swine flu and mad cow disease? The intestines of newly butchered animals are being fed to other animals waiting for slaughter. You think that's healthy for that meat to go into our food supply? Many, many people are eating and consuming this meat throughout the state. This farm is not just advertising on Craigslist and social media for the local Hernando, Brooksville area. They're advertising, and I personally have seen the ads for Ocala, for Miami, for, of course, right here in Tampa, Orlando, and beyond. And that's where they are transporting this meat to. They're loading this meat multiple times a day in delivery trucks, unrefrigerated, covered in flies. So the horse slaughter. Finally, these farm owners trusted me enough to start killing horses in front of me. At that point, I was such a good friend of theirs that they would do anything and everything in front of me. One day I drove in to purchase horse meat for evidence, to give that evidence to law enforcement, to make arrests, and they walked up an incredibly beautiful dark bay thoroughbred. I paid them $2,000 for a portion of the meat from that horse, as we always do when we're undercover. They took that horse to a kill area in the back of the property and shot it. The horse did not die. They started stabbing it. And during the butcher process, I just had a hunch. I had a hunch. So I flipped up her lip. And what did I see? A tattoo number. A tattoo number that registered to a horse by the name of Funny Biz. Born in Kentucky. Had a very strong, very good racing record out of Gulfstream Park in Miami. Was sold a few times and then made her way to the illegal slaughterhouse. And this is a very, very common occurrence. The Animal Recovery Mission has investigated well over 100 thoroughbreds killed for human consumption in the state of Florida, but usually we find these carcasses on the sides of the roads. Or someone will report their horses being slaughtered in their own stalls, and those are tattooed thoroughbreds that have been rescued by individuals after the racing careers. But we've never been certain and positive that their meat is going onto the black market. Well, now we know with this case, right? Now we know that they're selling horse meat for human consumption from tattooed thoroughbred champion racehorses. And this wasn't just any racehorse. This was a descendant of Secretariat, one of the most famous racehorses on the planet, if not the most famous. If this horse can go into an illegal slaughterhouse, Funny Biz, then any horse can. So where did the evidence go? When I completed this case, we developed a report at the Animal Recovery Mission, put our evidence as far as video and audio on a drive, and had a meeting on December 26, 2023. 8 months ago, we gave them anything and everything needed for this case. Remember, the Animal Recovery Mission has worked with so many state, federal, city, and county law enforcement agencies on these cases, so we are the specialists in this case. Law enforcement are not the specialists because they don't go undercover day in and day out in these cases. We do. We've had arrests, we've investigated these crimes with horse slaughter and have had arrests in various farms, such as this in Miami-Dade, in Broward, in Palm Beach, in Okeechobee, in Lee County, right here in Hillsborough County, Polk, in various counties. We handed them in Hernando copies of arrest warrants, copies of search warrants they could use as templates, showing case law. We have multitudes of case law in various counties where we've handed our cases to law enforcement. Their arrests have been made, and those cases actually went to trial, and there were convictions by juries, which is case law. We gave them copies and phone numbers and emails of various prosecutors and law enforcement officials that we've worked with in the past in these cases. Why? Because straight out of the Hernando County Sheriff's Office themselves, we know nothing. We're blind in this case. We don't know what we're doing. Well, I was their guide, right? Pro bono. I was their advisor. Did they call one detective? Did they call one expert that I gave them numbers on? None. I put together such a complete package for them, it landed in their lap. Arrests could have been made on this case at the end of December 2023. We're looking at 7 months later. So whatever excuse the Sheriff's Office in Hernando County give you, anyone, whether you're a civilian calling up and you're a horse owner, furious or scared because you have horses in Hernando County or in the various areas, and now you're scared for the life of your animals. Don't let them give you an excuse. This case was very quickly and easily put together for them, and they could have made an arrest that fast. The statutes are black and white. The video evidence, bar none, is the best that we've ever done. The Hernando County Sheriff's Office, we've just recently learned, has made an arrest in this case. I went undercover after my last meeting with them, and they killed pigs. They were killing pigs actually with hammers. I delivered that evidence to that agency, to the Sheriff's Office of Hernando County, and they did make one misdemeanor arrest. Now, how in the world they could get this wrong, I have no idea. But when anyone violates the Humane Slaughter Act of the United States, it is not a misdemeanor. When you butcher an animal alive that is not insensible to pain, it is a felony. It is black and white. It is not a misdemeanor. What did they do? They charged a misdemeanor crime to this individual, whom, by the way, took part in the killing and butchering of Funny Biz, the racehorse. Simultaneously, the Animal Recovery Mission gave 2 investigations at the same time to 2 different counties. Now, this is important. We gave one case where we went undercover in an illegal slaughterhouse to the St. Lucie Sheriff's Office on the opposite coast, on the West Coast. At the same time, we gave the case of the illegal slaughterhouse to Hernando County. The St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office took this so seriously, they put a strike force together. They raided the property on, I believe, February 12th, which ARM was a part of. They made the arrest, made a multitude of felony arrests. They closed the property forever. They rescued over 150 animals from that property. It is done. That operation is done. I'm actually going to court on that for trial in a few weeks. At the same time, the Hernando County Sheriff's Office, this farm as we speak today, we're going into August, is up and running. What in the world is going on? We are in the same state. These offices follow the same state statutes. How can this sheriff in Hernando County get this wrong? How can the state attorney that's had this case in Hernando County get this wrong? When just about every other county is dropping the hammer, is taking our cases, is looking at this and saying, this is the easiest case that we've ever had. All we have to do is go into court and press play. That is it. Frustrating and sad. Sad for the horse owners in this community. Sad for the animals, of course. You think that law enforcement is put in place to protect the animals to uphold state law, and that is not what's happening in Hernando County. So what are we asking for here? We're asking for felony arrests to be made on the footage that was given to the Hernando County Sheriff's Office. We're demanding that arrests be made on the murder and butchering and selling of the meat of Funny Biz, again, which is a second-degree felony. We're asking for this farm to be raided and for any additional animals on site to be rescued. On December 26, 2023, the Animal Recovery Mission, our sister organization, is Armed Sanctuary. That is the largest animal sanctuary in the state of Florida. We told them upon raid day, we would take pro bono, no taxpayer funds needed, all of the animals and give them safe haven at our sanctuary. They would never leave our sanctuary. They're not adopted out. Those animals are not sold. They would stay there for life. Hernando County Sheriff's Office went and made one misdemeanor arrest and left all of the animals with the evidence that they have. That is unconscionable and should be illegal. They should be held accountable by the media, by the constituents of Hernando County, and by anyone and everyone that loves horses and animals. Any questions?
So this one arrest that they made, was this one of the Ortizes that you talked about?
It was not. So we're talking about the owners, and most of the video that was collected over a year and a half of all the animals being tortured, the two owners were not arrested. They're at the farm today. Your cameras could go out there. Now, this property is at a dead end, but there's a trail that I believe it's called the Suncoast Trail and Path that goes along the whole property. You can pet the animals. You can see the butcher area from the path where people walk their dogs, where they have bike rides. I've been at the slaughter area as they're chopping up an animal alive, and people are yelling at me as they're walking their children and their animals on the path, wondering what in the world's going on, and reporting these crimes to law enforcement.
I'm a little confused. There's two things. First of all, it's illegal to purchase horses.
Correct.
How does creating a persona allow you to purchase?
It's illegal to purchase horse meat for human consumption. We're purchasing horse meat as evidence, and that is very clear right when we start our undercover cameras. So if you purchase that, you have to purchase that meat, and the key words are for human consumption. You have to purchase that meat to actually be eaten. If you're purchasing that horse and you're an agency that is pre-approved by the federal government, which is we are, to conduct these investigations, you can go in and purchase the meat as evidence. If you could actually go in and purchase the meat for consumption for your dog. It's human consumption.
And so then your being present at these slaughters is not illegal?
It is not illegal. It's not illegal for anyone to be present at the slaughterhouse. It's illegal to butcher animals alive. It's illegal on the part of the slaughter operators themselves. To be present is not illegal. And I've been able to ask those questions on the stand in court.
So I'm just...
Yeah.
So when I Google Ortiz Slaughterhouse, Musa's comes up.
It does.
That's what came up. Why? What is the connection?
The connection, that's interesting. I haven't done that yet. It's interesting that you said that.
And
Okay.
I don't understand that. Where is, or maybe they're the same address, they're near each other? I don't know.
They're not near each other. Musa is in downtown Tampa. The Ortiz Slaughterhouse is in downtown Brooksville. So the connection, which is straight out of Mr. Ortiz himself, Juan Ortiz, is he sells animals to Musa. They have a mutual relationship where they trade animals from the illegal slaughterhouse to Musa. Now, Musa is a USDA inspected slaughterhouse. It's legal. Although they are getting possibly tainted animals with possibly infectious diseases. Possibly, I know that they trade a lot of birds, and there's a lot of diseases. Right now, there's a mad string of diseases, bird flus, that are going around the country, not only in the chicken and egg industry, but also has now hit the dairy industry. And this is how these diseases spread. Which is why it boggles my mind as an undercover investigator from doing this for 16, 17 years, that they're letting this place stay open. They've let it knowingly, tainted meat, leave this property for over 7 months. And all of us, the greater public, consuming that meat. I'm showing them deliveries from this property with flies all over the meat. They're dropping it on the ground and packaging it in trucks that are uncooled. They're not refrigerated. In the summertime here, this is dangerous stuff that the sheriff has known about.
So the sheriff's office would say that they are investigating this case, it's complex, they say that these cases take a lot of time. What is your response to them saying they're working on it and these cases take time?
They've been telling me this for 7 months in email form, and I can share all those emails and text messages with you. These cases don't take time, especially when you're working with a specialist, especially when you're given and directed to prosecutors and detectives that have had these cases in the past that can guide them and help them with them. The usual time frame when a case like this is given to law enforcement is anywhere between 45 and 60 days. The St. Lucie Sheriff's Office raided their property that I gave them with my case. I was not a CI. I was not a confidential informant for them. That case went to them, and they apologized for raiding it for taking so long. It took 70 days. Right off the bat, the Sheriff's Office wanted to make me a CI in Hernando County, confidential informant, to go in and buy horse meat for them, to go in and buy other animals and other meat for them, okay? They took 4 months to put that operation together, and the excuses they gave me was, well, we have a lot of county fairs right now. Our deputies are overloaded. We just have overloaded cases, and we can't get to this right now. That was the excuse that they gave me. The day before the CI buy, when it could have sealed the deal completely for this office to go in and buy horse meat and other animals, I believe it possibly could have been in May, late April, they called it off. The horse meat was set up between me and the horse killers. I was going in at 4 o'clock. They wouldn't register me as a CI, and they wouldn't let me do the horse meat buy under their badge. Why? It would have sealed the deal for them. I went in anyway and conducted an operation. Mind-blowing.
Talk about your correspondence with the FDLE, the USDA, and the Department of Ag, and how those changed in order to get inquiries.
Yeah, I did send FDLE multiple messages, and I've never heard back from them. I sent the case to the Law Enforcement Division of the Florida Department of Agriculture, which assisted us in the raid of the slaughterhouse in St. Lucie County. They were extremely excited about this case and wanted it. They knew that they would be considered heroes if they went and made arrests. They put me together with the person in charge of Law Enforcement Division for the Florida Department of Agriculture in the Brooksville area, excited about the case, but had to get approval from the Sheriff's Office in Brooksville in Hernando County to transfer the case. I set up another horse meat buy to do as a confidential informant through the Florida Department of Agriculture. Days before that, they called me and said, we will not work with you, and we will not work with the Animal Recovery Mission. And that was their email. And that email can go public to you as well. The only entity that's showing interest in this case is our special agents from DC. Special agents from Washington, DC are now coming in from Washington and attempting to take some type of control in this area because of lack of enforcement and stupidity by local law enforcement in the greater Florida zones. The problem with the USDA is they don't have arrestable powers. They have to rely on local law enforcement for that. So there's going to be a problem in the future right here. And I'm certain it's brewing as we speak behind closed doors. But USDA food, it's called FSIS division for the USDA. It's the Food Safety Inspection Division of the USDA, which I have done undercover operations with for over 15 years now. I did them right here in Hillsborough County with the horse meat arrests here. But they don't have the teeth, the laws backing them to put people in prison. The state of Florida does. Yeah.
Could you speak to the extent that these things are sort of I know you talked about Musa and you mentioned this, what sort of the scope that
All we know, we haven't followed those trucks. So all we have is the conversations on tape at the slaughterhouse itself. So we do know that every single day that we've been there, and we've been there a lot over the past almost 2 years now, they, on multiple occasions per day, are loading hundreds, if not thousands of pounds of meat into pickup trucks and delivering it to, they say, today we're going to downtown Tampa. We're going to a fruit stand. Today we're going to a small little cantina or butcher shop. We're selling it to them for this price, and they're doubling the price, and they're making a good profit. Other days they're going to Ocala. Other days they're going to Miami. Other days they're going to downtown Orlando. But the amount of meat that's being butchered in front of me for transport for human consumption is great.
Yeah, I'm the last person to get on this story, so I
No problem.
really answer questions.
Yeah.
If, hypothetically, if I'm a horse hunter and I want to slaughter my horse or have you slaughter it for me, how do I know that the element of human consumption is in there? You said for my dog, it might. As a seller, how am I responsible for what you do with me?
Yeah, actually, you can't slaughter your horse, even if it's your own property, for human consumption.
But if it's just slaughtered and I don't know what you're doing with it,
Uh-huh.
I'm just slaughtering it.
Yeah.
Couldn't I assume that you're giving it to your dog?
Sure. Yeah. So the key here is, and I'll explain the statute very, very quickly because it's only a few lines. Horse meat in the state of Florida is illegal if you possess it, if you kill a horse for human consumption, if you sell horse meat for human consumption, if you buy horse meat for human consumption. If the horse meat is unmarked, it's illegal, or labeled. So those are the key words. So if someone had marked this meat or stamped this meat, it would be legal under the state statute. But they never did. I actually went undercover. The sheriff's office, actually, the first excuse was, we can't make an arrest on Funny Biz because the meat could have been stamped. It could have been marked. You didn't see it in the video, and it was very clear video. But instead, I said, okay. I went undercover again, and I had conversations with the illegal slaughterhouse owners about why they don't stamp and mark their meat specifically. And I sent that to the sheriff's office. So that excuse was squashed. They came back with excuse after excuse on not making arrests for some reason on the horse killers here. Don't know why. But it does not take a lot of time to put these cases together, to write search and arrest warrants, which is the most complicated case. Most complicated part for the sheriff's office is writing the search and arrest warrants. It's not really verifying if a law has been broken because that's black and white. The statutes are right there in black and white. The video is undeniable. It's how do we write the search and arrest warrants? Well, here you go, because I gave you a multitude of copies from a multitude of counties of the search and arrest warrants where I personally was the affiant on the cases. Me, not law enforcement. So they could have used that template and wrote their own search and arrest warrant. There was probable cause, and the properties could have been raided that fast. So whatever excuse they give you, they're stalling. They've been stalling with me, which is why I had to hold this press conference. You think that I wanted to have this? I wanted a happy ending. I wanted arrests to be made, the property to be closed forever, and I really wanted all of these animals to come to sanctuary that are left there, that are scared, that are suffering, that deserve our attention. And that didn't happen.
So a couple questions. One, we've got some documents and evidence from Department of Ag and the Sheriff's Office separately that earlier, the last couple months, they were not working together on this case. And then as of yesterday, they are now working on this case. What do you think changed? And as we talk about the patchwork of different agencies, USDA has the meat inspection portion of this, law enforcement capabilities, there's different jurisdictional issues. We've discussed, and the idea of a statewide task force.
Yes. So exactly. Every agency has a piece of the pie here, which is why in the first meeting that I put in writing and wrote down every agency that had enforcement on this farm, whether it be environmental, food safety, USDA, Florida Department of Agriculture, FDLE, local law enforcement, the Sheriff's Office. I think I wrote down 10 to 15 departments that should take part in this case. I gave them phone numbers, I gave them emails, and I gave them names, not just department heads. And those were given to them on December 26, 2023. So to say that they are given an excuse why they haven't reached out to them sooner is mind-blowing to me. It's mind-blowing. And why are they working together now? Because now they know it's going to hit the fan. Now they know that you, personally, Fox 13, was about to air a story, a hardcore investigative report story, because I went to you months ago because I had nowhere else to turn, right? But to go public and to make them accountable. And they knew that was coming. And what else is coming right around the corner? Elections. So this sheriff in Hernando County that has been turning their backs on these poor animals, his election is in what, 3 weeks to a month?
Out of the 224 illegal slaughterhouses in Florida that ARM has been a part of shutting down the last 15 years, how many times have you had to go public with the information prior to a raid being done versus the amount of times you've gone in with law enforcement to raid those properties, remove the animals?
Twice. One was in Lee County in Fort Myers, where we went undercover simultaneously in 3 illegal slaughterhouses. Arrests were not made, and again, just like this case, every excuse was given to us. After we went public, arrests were made. What did we do? We brought in the USDA from DC. Federal agents came in. The first time it happened was right here in Hillsborough County. I went undercover in 4 illegal slaughterhouses here. The Sheriff's Office would not make arrests. Horses were being slaughtered among other animals. They would not make arrests. So what did I have to do there? Bring in special agents, call 3-letter agencies, call my contacts. What happened from that? Arrests were made.
This would be the third time out of 225 cases in which law enforcement can make the arrest and then have the press conference or having to have the press conference prior to it.
You got it. Yeah. So you're looking at a very, very small percentage, and the majority of time, we have happy endings here. And again, law enforcement, the majority of the workloads falls on the shoulders of the animal recovery mission. We do all the work. We collect all the evidence, 100% of the evidence. The expense is paid by our funders or me, myself. The raids on the property, all really the Sheriff's Office has to do is verify the documentation that it's real. Easy, they did that on December 26th. Have to get it verified by state law if it violated state statutes. You can do that in half a day with a prosecutor. All that law enforcement had to do was write the search and arrest warrants and execute for the arrests, put the cuffs on. That's their only job. If the raid itself, again, the majority of the workload falls on the animal recovery mission, collecting all the animals. And that's the main expense as well. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, thank you very much for your time, and thank you for coming.